Thank you for waiting, Cicero.
I just wanted to make sure you got here safe.
Don't worry. The mariner took great care of us.
Hurry up, Ma. We haven't got all day.
Your son's right. The bazaars await.
All right, my boy. Let's go see what the peddlers are offering.
Are you going to be all right?
Calden, please. Go and enjoy the festival. Just keep an eye out for the grating while you're at it. I'll go check on the others, see if they've spotted anything.
All right, then. I've got a few things I think I might be able to find here as well.
I can't help but be moderately concerned that this chapter is called Blood Under the Rug. And we're taking a family out to a bazaar. I'm like, no. Bad idea. Maribus family. We're running out of Maribus family entries. That in itself is kind of alarming. Damien Maribus too. The boy is lucky to belong to such a family, with a father who cares so deeply for him and a mother who has nothing but love for him. I will not say that my family was insufficient in warmth, but what this boy has is something else altogether. What else is... Wait, where is it? There it is. Seiho's Sojourn. The coming of the Heralds to Ombre was a significant event in Ombre's history, and even more so for those of runic ancestry that currently live in Ombre. To commemorate the great impact and significance that the Heralds brought to society, a principally runic festival is held every year called Seiho's Sojourn, that's celebrated in memory of the head of the Herald family. In keeping in line with the runic tradition's emphasis on trade and commerce, Seiho's Sojourn is often celebrated with the setting up of bazaars and selling of antiques and trinkets that aren't often sold. That's cool. We have a nice clear explanation of why this event is being held in the first place. But yeah, rugs. I have basically no exposure to this type of marketplace in the first place, but pretty much the two words that come to mind are basically rug and spice. I like the two things I expect to be found here. Maybe beads? So, blood under the rug doesn't bode well for our family picnic vacation trip. Picnic did not fit the rest of that sentence. Artigiani and Messner. We're going to another magic category. We haven't revisited these for a while. The artists known as the Artigiani are practitioners of Messner, a media which involves the painting or dyeing of symbols and patterns over the equipment of Masquerada. The piece of equipment's physical structure is never altered, and the patterns painted are far easier to remove than the engravings involved in Meliare. These patterns, always beautiful in design and color, improve the Masquerada's connection with their element significantly, or slightly, but combined with the etchings of Meliare, can drastically affect the proficiency of a Masquerada in battle. So it seems to directly connect to some of the stuff we were talking about previously. There's modifications we put on stuff. I just threw these bottles everywhere. I feel terrible. Oh no. So I feel like I should probably avoid the objectives a bit if I can, because there are going to be not only lore stuff, but also masks scattered around. So I should probably just do a cursory lap, both to get a nice look of the area, and see what kind of weird things could be hidden about. The Heralds were not the first runic people to arrive on the shores of Ombre, but they were, without a doubt, the most influential. The Heralds were a large clan of runic people that had grown tired of the ideals and the artistry of their home country. They were among the upper echelons of their society. They were Zehos among Ashens, but they sought more than what life in Rune could offer. When word of Mascherines and powers beyond their knowing surfaced, the Heralds were quick to venture across the Midnight Belt onto the shores of Ombre. Once there, they began assimilating into society. Learning the ways of Ombre quickly, they learnt how to use Mascherines, and were the first to think of ways to use them for art. Their education and upbringing in Rune allowed them to view the Mascherines from a completely new perspective. Until that point, Mascherines had been viewed as weapons rather than tools of art. But the Heralds, with their worldview, saw the potential that the Mascherines had for creating artistic wonders. And so the Heralds experimented with the Mascherines, learning to use them to paint, to produce great works of glass, to play multiple wind instruments at a time. Many modern Vegalists regard this blossom of culture as one of the primary causes of the Masquerada. These inventions and discoveries brought many things of wealth from the sudden increase in trade brought about by these works of art that had never before been seen among them. People from the Rondagia began to be lured by the extravagant lifestyle of those across the Midnight Belt, and were not immune to the enticing glamour of life in the blossoming city. So what we're seeing here is a festival thrown in the honor of the people who more or less brought about this specific brand of using music with Mascherines to use your powers, which has kind of been a big deal. It's the entire basis of our purple friend. Fabra and Meliare. Craftsmen who practice Meliare are called Fabra, and they specialize in engraving and etching symbols and patterns into the weapons and equipment of Masquerada. Meliare works through the physical alteration of the equipment itself and requires great precision and fastidiousness in order to have any effect. Though a typical engraving, approximately half the size of a palm, only marginally affects the abilities of a Masquerada, a collection of these alterations, when combined with the painted works of the Messenier, can produce quite a significant improvement. You gotta wonder about that. We're finding out about more detailed explanations of the carving stuff after we've already found out that the Mascherines themselves are human. Oh wait, they said the equipment of the Masquerade. Never mind, sorry. I was thinking about the fact that we have patterns on the masks themselves, and I thought these people were engraving the masks, which is distressing, because I wonder, you're stabbing into something that's also a living creature once upon a time, or currently, and if it's currently sentient, I was wondering if you're causing them pain or something, and disfiguring them. But then I remembered that we're talking about the equipment of Masquerada, which is not the Masquerine, but the user of the Masquerine, and that's more along the lines of when we talked about how, like, our friends wanted to paint and engrave our sword, which is not in any way harmful in the same ways. Context is very different. Dieci Sovrani origins. It's hard to write of the Dieci Sovrani without first recounting the entire history of the Herald family, though I will try to here. The Dieci Sovrani is considered the most foreign of Amber's guilds, for they consist principally of people of Rune, who had come to Amber in the fourth canticle, allured by the wonderment and awe. These runic people were part of the upper echelons of their society and had an intense fascination with art in its various forms. Hearing about the wonders of the lands of Amber, they thirsted to experiment with the powers of the land to find new ways of working them into their arts. Amber benefited greatly from their presence, of course, and a great many of the breakthroughs in media can be attributed directly to the most influential of these runic families. The Herald family... the most influential of these runic families, the Herald family. But the media weren't the only things that benefited from their presence. The great works of art that were created using the powers of Mascherines cemented Amber as the apogee of artistic achievement in the region. The merchants of the fourth canticle had thought they'd seen good days, but if they'd seen the ports of Amber during the fifth canticle, they would have sung to a different tune. At that time, however, the name of the Dieci Sovrani was still not present in the mindscape of the city. Everyone knew that the Heralds were, who the Heralds were, though by the fifth canticle the original Herald family had long passed, but they were a part of no guild. Though they contributed greatly to Amber's flourishing, they were no exception to the Masquerada rule when it had been implemented, and so, adopting the lingua franca of their region, Dieci Sovrani was created. Some in the Dieci, however, still refer to the guild by its name in their native language. Kinche, I assume, perhaps. The flourishing of art and the flood of wealth that brought in were trademark influences of the legacy of the Dieci. As time went by, however, the members of the Dieci began priding themselves more on the latter, and soon wealth and influence overtook art and its integrity on their list of priorities. It is in that state of avarice that we find the Dieci Sovrani today. That's a bummer. So they have really noble and neat origins, but they sort of just gave into, capitalism, more or less. profiting off their art rather than being enthralled by the art itself, really.
Thinking of buying something?
This one.
Valenturia. Tales of the Second Canticle.
Lysandra used to sing it too. Must have picked it up from your brother.
Was she any good at it?
Terrible. But she was never sour about it.
You know, she did it for you.
I know. I know. What she did 5 years ago. I knew she did it to protect me. That didn't make it any easier to swallow. But now, what have I done?
It'll be all right.
Cicero, I'm so sorry. It's just... Ever since leaving the Malacate, I've been scared to be a part of anything again.
It's all right. I understand. Now, chin up. We've got a grating to find, yeah?
Yes. Yes, we do. Thank you, Cicero.
So another one of those nice moments where we can split everybody up and have character moments with all of them. It's the correct way to handle these kinds of situations, really, in an RPG. But a shocking number of games kind of don't. We'll get to you in just a moment. I see you hiding over here. Almost missed the one in the middle. The Golden Canvas may not be the principal ward of the Dieci Savani, but it is among the most prominent. The legacy of the Therild family lives on most evidently in this ward, with its high, colorful glass houses and beautiful vistas. Making most of their revenue from trading artisanal goods, the Dieci have the most skilled and creative of Artigiani and Fabra at Enets, and it is under the marvelous drapery of the Golden Canvas and between its billowing clouds of colored smoke that they are found practicing their crafts. So that's actually the name of the entire area we're in right now.
I didn't know you liked carvings.
Cicero, I didn't see you there.
What have you got there?
Well, nothing.
Calden?
You have the most damnable timing.
What is it?
When I was a skipper, I used to go down to the shore and scour the beaches for these sun skulls, a type of coral.
That's a rather ominous name, isn't it? Sun skulls?
On the contrary, the midnight belt is black, but somehow these manage to retain their brilliant color. A ray of light in a sea of shadows. A source of hope in a mire of despair. I'd have carved one myself if I had the time, but since we're here...
Who's it for?
Each one of my kids has one. Jaxus did. My brother does. I get them for the people in my life that have given me hope. This one is for you.
Me?
For not turning me away, even though you easily could have.
Calden.
In this city, it is difficult to call one a friend and truly mean it. But I do. And I want you to know that.
Calden, I don't...
Please.
Thanks. Any sign of the grating?
Not yet. But I'll keep looking.
Calden? I don't deserve this. There's a part of me that wishes he would stop. I've never before said that I wish someone would stop having so warm a heart, but here it is. He gives me tokens of friendship when all I've done is tell him to remain in the shadows. But how can I tell him otherwise? To encourage anything other than remaining in the shadows is ill wisdom. The investigation is hardly venturing across thin ice. We needn't anything else that might complicate matters here. I suppose that the best I can do now is get Razatov back to him. Yes, that'll have to do. I kind of skipped on Medea's message for a bit there, didn't I? We're getting really close to the end of her story, that's concerning. The magics in this world are capable of many a great feat. The mending of bones, the closing of wounds. Still, There has yet to be found a magic capable of restoring a heart. To my knowledge, only one force in our world has such a capability, and it works slowly. I remember how the process was like for me. The moment I heard about my brother's demise, I lost the ability to stand, as though the muscles in my body had all but atrophied. I could not eat, as though I'd been overcome by a deathly sickness that robbed me of my appetite. I found it hard to breathe, and though my lungs were slowly filling up with the pneumonic liquid, I was overcome by a host of ailments no magic could purge. But slowly, as the days turned to days, the strength began to find its way back into my limbs, bit by bit. I began to eat more and could breathe without the looming threat of weeping. I began to enjoy again the presence of Kaiser, our mutt, who before could only remind me of my brother and the fact that he was no longer around. Time had begun repairing my spirit. Granted, I don't believe I ever allowed it to truly finish the job, but it had allowed it to at least pull me away from the cold edge. And so, that process has begun to work on Amadea. It has made much progress with her in what little time has passed since we lost Lysandra, and I'm finally beginning to see the light in her heart. It is a far gentler one than I'd first anticipated. It is a good light, and I will say that despite what it's taken for her to get here, I am happy for her. That's rough. But yeah, I think that it's reasonable to think that the reason we're running out of entries for her is not because she has any sort of looming death coming or anything like that, but just because her major arc more or less just happened. And so, like, there's the beginning of the arc was somewhere around here, and the end was around here, and this is kind of the fallout, and then there's probably going to be a final farewell message, so we'll probably actually stop hearing from her for a while. So Vasco is the one that we have, like, nothing on. Same thing happened with Kalden. He had a big leap of entries because of Razatov, then he had a big leap of entries related to the fact that the entire gay thing was going on, and we're making a big deal about that, and it might calm down for a while again.
Thinking to buy one?
Buy a flute. Nothing is worth as much as a flute crafted by the flautist's own hands. I'm here to see if I can pinch some inspiration.
Well, that one looks interesting.
Ah, that's a Cato flute, with 3 individual mouthpieces. Only Airbrands can bring out the beautiful harmonies they were meant to produce. Far too cumbersome for a traveler like me, though.
What's your type of flute, then?
That one, over there.
Simple.
It's a traditional runic flute called Eniodi. It was brought over with runic culture in the 4th Canticle, even before the Terrals came. But of course, you don't want to hear about the 4th Canticle, do you?
I don't?
Not when it pales in comparison to the 2nd, no?
Why would you say that?
Oh, it's just something I overheard once upon a time. That life in the 2nd Canticle was... how should I put it? Worth dreaming of.
Where did you hear that?
You didn't have to lie to me, you know. About the artifacts being the key to creating Mascherines. It would have made no difference to me.
Who have you told?
No one. Please.
Then what are you getting at?
I've been trying to tell you, ever since I saw you with the Bleeding Beetle. But I just wasn't sure how.
What is it?
It's... how do I put this? I'm...
the Bloodless.
Yes, I am, in fact, him, but that's...
If you heard the conversation I had with Amadea, you must have returned quite early in the night. Timings don't match up if you needed to report to the Bloodless first, even less so if you were supposed to spread rumors. You have lackeys for that, don't you?
Yes, you've made good deductions, but...
I won't tell the others, as long as you promise to keep the details of the artifacts to yourself, too.
I suppose that'd be fair.
Is there anything else you wish to say?
Only that I haven't seen any sign of the grating yet.
Well, keep looking then. I'll go see what I can find. Moscow, I do appreciate the honesty.
So much for that.
I think I totally called it like an episode or 2 ago, the idea that he was gonna just be the Bloodless in a total like Red Jenny situation, or shadow broker situation and so on. Like, it just fits that you just find out, like, oh yeah, I'm just that person I said I was reporting to, I'm just him. Surprise! Haha! Surprise-ish. The Bloodless 2. I suppose it wouldn't be fair to say that it wasn't difficult figuring out the identity of the Bloodless. Vasco didn't seem too bothered about me already knowing when he told me about it, so he mustn't have taken that many precautions to hide it from me. I do hope, however, that for all our sakes, he's done a better job concealing it from the rest of the city. I can imagine that this causing us a little bit more of a hassle should the information be made public. I guess the fact that multiple Bloodless entries are down here also explains why Vasco has so few entries for himself, because 2 of them are technically here, and there might even be a 3rd one. There's a little space there. I cannot help but wonder about his intentions in revealing this fact to me. However, it seemed that there was something else, it's probably supposed to say... Yeah, I think it's supposed to say he. It seemed that there was something else he wanted to say, but I suppose he'll tell me when the time is right. I don't think it would have been right for me to prod. He seems like a decent enough person anyway. If it's something I needed to know, I'm certain he would have informed me by now. What if the last entry is what we get after we find out he's not actually the Bloodless, and he's actually just, this is a total red herring to guard the identity of the Bloodless? The fact that it so quickly got revealed makes me suspicious of the fact that I called it now.
Bristlethorn for your armor?
Someone knows a thing about polishing, I see.
Of course. Who do you think keeps my buckles shining? So, what's Fabio's opinion on what's been going on?
The Judge Master's keeping an eye out. He understands that it's too early to act until more concrete trails can be found. Or at least until we know what the artifacts can do.
And when you do, he will know about them?
Inspectore, know that your efforts at undermining my loyalty to the Luca are in vain.
I don't understand. You can clearly see what is at stake, but yet you think it's more important to keep your guild informed, even though you are fully aware that they might, in the future, jeopardize the investigation.
Do you know who my father was?
I don't know any Luca that carry the De Felici family name. No.
De Felici was my mother's family name. My father was Judge Zane Rios.
I had heard he was a great judge.
He was also a great father, who taught me everything that I know about the Luca. My earliest memory ever was of a Luca parade, staring at rows and rows of beautiful gold as he carried me in his arms. Oh, it had been a sight. A man as large as my father, tenderly holding a little girl at a Luca parade. He told me that he never heard the end of that tale from those around him, but he ensured daily that I knew he did not regret it. To him, displaying his love for me was worth more than his reputation as a strong, steeled man. But if you've heard of him before, then you'd know that his song is upon the singing tree.
It's been there for a decade.
I loved, and still love my father, Inspectore, and the Luca is his legacy. Have I helped you understand?
Yes.
Good. Now, if that is all, I believe we have an entrance to find.
Well, everyone's off. I wonder if everyone teleported to the location of what we're looking for. Interestingly, she seems to be at this point, she's the only person who doesn't know about the Masquerine creation. If I remember correctly, I think everyone knows now except for her. She's gonna feel real mad when she finds that out, inevitably. Tiziana de Felici 7. Finally, a crack in the armor of the Golden Warrior. Judge Zane Rios was her father, a brilliant man and an excellent fighter from what I've heard. I'd never met the man in person, but from the stories that drift through the streets, I understand that he was a notable judge in the Luca, though perhaps for slightly more unorthodox reasons. Zane Rios was kind. Make no mistake, kindness is not frowned upon within the ranks of the Luca. It is, however, scarcely ever prioritized. If a man or a woman has been judged by the judges of Lucca to have offended, then punishment is to be meted out swiftly and brutally. It matters not how many mouths she has to feed, or how broken a family he'll leave behind. Justice is justice, and it is not to be tempered and weakened by considerations of its consequence. That's distressing. The Lucca's almost religious view of the perfectibility and incontrovertibility of what they believed to be justice was, from what I've heard, not something Zane Rios subscribed to. Supposedly, the man didn't believe in the absolute nature of justice. It wasn't this untouchable, unalloyed concept that it was impervious to change or deliberation. Instead, it was a product of society, and so, like the variegated society that birthed it, it was susceptible to discussion and amendment depending on circumstance. For obvious reasons, he wasn't the most popular judge among the other judges, though he did perform the rest of his duties well. I am unclear about the details surrounding his death. All I know is that it's been 10 years since his passing, and still his legacy is popular with the less conservative members of the Lucca, though they are few and far in between. Having said all that, I return to the idea of his daughter. I must confess that the first thing that comes to mind is how disparate their personalities are. Here she stands telling me how much her father means to her, and yet her actions align so strongly with the ideas of those that mocked him. The indubitable obeisance to hierarchy and duty, the sheer deference to the will of the superior. There is something that I am missing, some reason for this dissonance between her actions and what she proclaims to be her motivations. It seems the glowing armor she wears hides a heart more faceted than I'd first suspected. Okay, you're getting a little ever so slightly full of yourself with the writing game, and that we're starting to get a lot of character descriptions where the ending of is like, this character is more interesting and complex than I originally thought. I'm like, okay, you don't need to keep saying that out loud. I get it. That's the whole point of writing them. I'm happy that the characters are in fact interesting, but the fact that you keep saying they're interesting is starting to get weird.
Here we go.
This is it then?
Let's find out. 2 of you will follow me. The other 2 will stay out here in case anything goes wrong. Watch for signs.
What could go wrong? Let's pick out a pair. Let's do healer and caster, more or less. Ish. They don't quite fit into traditional roles. I also think that any combination of them might actually more or less work in many cases.